Welcome to Beautiful Me, celebrating children of color. I'd like to start this presentation with a book that is quite relevant during these difficult times. The Breaking News. I remember when we heard the bad news. And you see the family here, the adults are distracted by what they're seeing on the screen, and everything around them is starting to fall apart. Suddenly, Mom is glued to the television. Dad can't stop checking his phone. They whisper, and I pretend not to hear. It's more than a little scary. Mom forgets to tuck me in. Dad is too tired for bedtime stories. It seems like everyone else feels it too. At school, my teacher says to look for the helpers. Even when the news is bad, you can still find good people trying to make things better in big and small ways. I want to help in a big way. I decide to put on the funniest show ever to make everyone laugh again. But the grown-ups don't feel like laughing. I tell them about the force fields I'll invent to keep us all safe, but their smiles are tiny and sad. I try to be on my best behavior all the time, to be so good, but they hardly even notice. I think maybe there's nothing I can do to help in a big way. I feel small. And she looks so sad. The dog looks sad, and even the plant is wilting. So maybe I can try to do just one small thing, and maybe another, and another, and one more. Small things don't solve everything. The bad news is still there after all. But then again, so are we. Hello, I'm Tina Mraz, Early Literacy Services Coordinator for the Fairfax County Library. I've been with the library for over 8 years, and I've been working in libraries for over 17 years. I've worked in various departments, but my passion has always been children's services and children's literature.
And my name is Renee Edwards. I'm the program director for the library. I've worked with children for over 25 years as a teacher, a school librarian, and an early literacy services manager for the library. All of the books and resources that we share in today's presentation can be found right underneath the recording of this video. I'm going to tell you a story about me when I was a little girl. I was born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina. It was summer. I was 9 or 10 years old, and I was riding my bike. I stopped in front of a neighborhood grocery store, and I watched as this blue car came driving up the hill, and the blonde-headed lady was hunched over the steering wheel, and I could tell she was really gunning that motor. As the car passed me, a little blonde-headed boy leaned out of the window, looked at me, and yelled, "Nigger!" and then the car zoomed away. I sat on my bike feeling stunned, embarrassed, and deeply, deeply hurt. I rode my bike home. I shared what had happened with my mother, and my mother just said that things like this happens, and we never talked about it again. I swallowed my hurt and pain and moved on with my life. But that was when I became aware that being Black meant something. And it meant that people wouldn't like me just because of the color of my skin. And it was a lesson that I learned over and over and over again. So, what's the takeaway? Why did I share that story? Simply because children can be taught to hate. That little boy was taught to hate. He was taught that it was okay to call Black people the N word. But on the flip side, children can also be taught to acknowledge, accept, and respect our racial differences. And when that happens, that's when they can begin seeing everyone as human beings. So, just some questions for you to reflect on. When were you first aware of your race? And how, if ever, did adults help you think about racial differences? Tina, I know you have a story. What have you reflected on? What was your first awareness of your race, and how did the adults help you?
My first awareness was in the classroom when you got the crayons and you drew a picture of yourself, and I couldn't find a crayon color to match me. And there was the black crayon, and I looked at that and I'm like, well, that's not my color. And looked at the brown crayon, and well, I'm brown, but not that kind of brown. And then my Caucasian classmates, they could get the peach and mix it with the white crayon and kind of come up with a fleshy color, but I didn't have a color that I could call my own. And that's when I kind of knew that I was different.
And
And
did any adults help you think about those racial differences?
you know, when you go home, your mom just usually, like your mom said, it's like, oh, honey, that's just the way it is. And I don't think that our parents back then were prepared for those questions. They were just used to telling us we had to accept the way the culture was at that time.
I think you're right. I think we grew up in a time where adults didn't have those conversations with us because that was just the way the world was. But now it's different. And I think parents need to have those conversations with children about race. So, what can you do? If you are the parent of a preschool child, make sure you're reading books to your children that feature diverse characters. Answer questions honestly. Children notice skin colors and differences at a very early age, and they will have questions. So if you know the answer, give it. If you don't know, just simply say you don't know. So, Tina, I'm going to call on you again because you had another nice story that kind of fit this suggestion.
So my daughter, when she was a preschooler, she loved to come into the bathroom when I was taking a shower to have these deep conversations. And sometimes they were silly, sometimes they were like, oh, when's the tooth fairy coming? But one day she came in and she asked me, Mommy, why are you Black? And I was stunned. I didn't realize that she saw, me as anything other than Black. And so I just told her that's the way that God made me. And that was the best answer that I had at the time. I wish I would have given her, more detailed answer, like, explaining the science behind skin color. But at the time, I was kind of cornered. I didn't know what to say. So now that there's so many books out there celebrating diversity and talking about children of color, you can have those conversation starters with your kids. And there's one in particular that I'm going to share tonight that I really wish I would have had when she came to me with that question.
Thank you, Tina. I can't wait for you to share that book. It is a beautiful story. So, the last thing that parents of preschool children can do is be careful about what you say and how you react to certain situations. Children are always watching, they are taking their cues from you, and they will say and behave the same way you do. Think about the story that Tina read, Breaking News, and how the children responded to the parents being visibly upset. They are always watching. So, this evening, we are going to share picture books that will help you have conversations about race, resources that will increase your knowledge and encourage discussions.
So our first book tonight is going to be in a section that is called Talk About Race. The second section in our presentation is going to be Everyday Diversity. So in the book Hands Up, we meet a young girl named Viv who shows us all of the positive ways we can put our hands up as opposed to the traditional connotation of hands up being in response to a police command. So we see Viv's tiny hands stretched to greet the day. They play peekaboo with her loving parents. She puts her hands up to get a drink just out of her reach. And when she spills it, she must raise her hands to get to the sink to clean up the mess. And I love that the cat's down there trying to clean it up for her. She stretches her hands way up high in her class when she knows the answer to a question. Viv's hands go up in triumph as she races her bicycle. And when she falls, she puts her hands up for help. Just like Viv, we start off as small people and grow. And like Viv, we should grow up to be older and raise our hands up in resistance and strength with our friends in our community to stand up for our other neighbors. So when you're reading books like Hands Up, you may ask children what comes to mind when they hear the words hands up. When you look up that phrase in the dictionary, you will likely see a negative definition. For example, the Collins Dictionary says hands up is an order given by a person pointing a gun. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as to admit that something bad is true or that you have made a mistake. So when you're asking questions like, is this a command, a request, or a statement, you're finding out what children know about those phrases. In Happy in Our Skin, we see a celebration of all of the amazing things that our skin can do. We begin the story with a family in the park sharing hugs and kisses with the latest addition to their family. As they look around, they see a beautiful bouquet of babies of all different colors. The kids then look at their skin and start thinking about it as more than just a color. It does some amazing things, like keeping our insides in and stretching with us as we grow. It can heal itself when you fall and scrape your skin. It gets darker when we're out in the hot sun, and we get goosebumps when we're cold. Skin is always with us, just under our clothes. And we all have skin, but everyone's skin is different. And at the end of the book, we see the family here attending an afternoon block party, again with a beautiful bouquet of color, and they're enjoying their day with their neighbors, all happy in their skin. So for this book, instead of reading the story, you can take a picture walk through the book. Ask children what they see, or give them an opportunity to express what they know, and then you can ask them questions to help them make sense of it. You could do an activity to have them explore their own skin by drawing their faces, complete with moles, birthmarks, freckles, and other features. Our next book is Honey Smoke. And this is this book that I wish I would have had when my daughter asked me that question about why I'm Black, and I could have told her about finding her own color. So in Honey Smoke, we meet a young biracial girl who's searching for the perfect color word to describe herself. Simone is coloring a picture of herself, but she cannot find a color to match her skin. And you can see here that she's trying to blend different colors to match her, but nothing is working. So she asks her parents what her color is. Her mom says color is just a word. Dad says she's a little bit of both. But Simone still wants a color of her own. She asks her friends what her color is, but none of them know. She goes through her school day contemplating her skin color and comparing her skin to things around her, like the bike swing on the playground, and here in the reading corner with the two different colored teddy bears. Nothing matches her. Simone wants a color that tells her story. So at dinner, she looks at her parents and she realizes that her mom is the color of honey and her dad is the color of smoke. And just before bedtime, she tells her parents that she has discovered her color. Honey smoke. I just love that story. And after you read this with children, you can talk about how our world is made up of so many colors, and you can experiment with different color combinations to see what new colors created, or you can help them find their own color. The picture you see here is from the very last page of the book, and it has some very interesting colors that are really cool. I love ruby fire, copper storm, sugar coal, and this is a great opportunity to help kids find their unique color.
So we continue the discussion of looking at skin color because in our country, that's what we identify by. And this is why we need children to see that before they can move past it to see us as people. So in the book, Shades of People, it explores the many different shades of human skin and show that it's just a covering that doesn't reflect who we are. So the book starts by showing a variety of children and bringing attention to their various shades. And then the book goes on to look at the individual shades and provide examples of the children that match those shades. This book also highlights that even within families, there can be different shades, and even at school. The book ends with, in this world, there is light and dark and everything in between. Our skin is just a covering, like wrapping paper, and you can't tell what someone is like from the color of their skin. So, when you're talking about race and you're using shades of people, you can ask children questions about some of the pages. So, for example, the page that's at the beginning of the book that shows all the children in their various shades, you can ask them what shades they see. And if you come to the page with the pictures of the different families, you can ask your child to identify the shades they see there. And then you can have a conversation about your family and the different shades that may even be in your own family. In the book, Skin Again, it encourages children to look beyond a person's skin color to find out who they truly are. The skin I'm in is just a covering. It cannot tell my story. The skin I'm in is just a covering. If you want to know who I am, you've got to come inside and open your heart way wide. And then it goes on to say that in order to know someone, you got to talk to them. And when you talk to them, you find out that they have stories just like you. And really and truly getting to know someone means letting go of what you think you might know. Because at the end of the day, we're all made up of different histories and dreams and hopes. So, when you're reading to your child the book Skin Again, you can ask a lot of wonderful questions to try to figure out where they're thinking, what they're thinking, and you can have some really beautiful discussions based on their answers. So, some questions you could ask: how would you describe your skin? What does skin color tell us about a person? Does skin color tell us if people like ice cream or riding a bike? How do you learn or find out what other people are really like? The book Hair Love is a wonderful story about a little girl and her father. The little girl's name is Zuri, and Zuri loves her hair, but sometimes her hair has a mind of its own, and she's trying to fix it so it looks really nice for a special day that she has coming up. And her father tries to help her. This book was made into a short 6-minute film that I encourage you all to watch. If you go to YouTube and search Hair Love, you should see the film. It is a truly beautiful one. So after you read the book or watch the video, again, you can have some wonderful discussions about hair. You can talk about how hair can be different lengths, colors, textures. You can talk about the versatility of hair and all the different ways that we can style it. And then you can ask questions about, what does your child's hair look like? What about your child's friends? How does your child like to style her hair? How does her friends like to style their hair? And then you can ask your child what's their favorite hairstyle. Our last section is everyday diversity. And basically, this is a made up phrase um, to encourage people to read books to children that show kids from all diverse backgrounds doing everyday things like saying hello, playing secret agent, planting a garden, looking for a stuffed lost animal. Basically, that children, no matter how they look, they all like the same things.
So our first book in this section is All Are Welcome. And in this book, we discover a school where no matter what, young children have a place, have a space, and are loved and appreciated. As the children start the day, we see all types of families dropping the children off at school. And no matter how they begin their day, what they wear, or where they're from, they are all welcome. School is a safe place for everyone here. The children take part in music, art, and story time, which is my favorite part of the day. And at lunch, you see the diversity in the kids themselves, as well as their food, which they're all sharing. This school is their community where diversity is celebrated and all are welcome here. In Say Hola, we meet Carmelita, and she greets everyone in her neighborhood as she goes on a walk. And we'll see people from many different cultures. It's like a trip around the world walking through this young girl's neighborhood. So she is going off for a walk in her neighborhood with Mom, and she sees the shop owner, and she greets him with, "Buenos dias." And the dog says, "Woof." When she gets to her neighbors, she greets them with a shalom. She greets the Japanese restaurant owners with konnichiwa, and the dog says, "Woof." Down the street, she sees her friend who's just come back from Kenya, and she gives him a jumbo, and the dog says, "Woof." At the bakery, she greets the baker in French, and I just love that the dogs greet each other with their usual woof. And the baker says, "Your dog speaks French too?" And then as they walk along, they stop by the butcher shop, the pizza place, and finally they get to the park where she sees her friends and she greets them in English, but not just traditional English. They use slang. So she comes up and she says, "Hey," and one little boy says, "Yo," and the other says, "What's up?" And finally, they turn the corner at Abuela's, where she greets her with an hola. And Lola plants a garden. We meet little Lola, who is inspired by her favorite poem to plant a garden. Lola loves her book of garden poems. And this is her favorite poem. "Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row." So after they read this poem, Lola tells her mom that she would like to plant a garden. So they go to the library and check out some books, and then they make a list of all the materials that they'll need. They choose their flowers, and they plant the seeds and wait. Lola finds it a little hard to wait, so to pass the time, she creates her own flower book with her mom, and Mom puts in the Mary, Mary poem. Before she knows it, tiny shoots are coming out of the ground. Soon, Lola has a garden full of flowers. She decorates the garden and even includes a little Mary Mary. You can see her on the bottom right-hand side of the garden. And finally, she invites her friends over for cake and punch.
The story Brave encourages children to be brave, no matter the situation. Brave kids seek adventure. And as I show you pages from this book, just notice all of the children and the different colors or shades of their skin that are featured. A brave kid has super strength. A brave kid has a courageous heart. And I love that Big Brother is looking under the bed for monsters. That can be a very brave thing to do. A brave kid never gives up. A brave kid speaks for truth. So these children were playing baseball and accidentally broke a neighbor's window. And I love that the little girl is apologizing for this accident. It takes a lot of courage to tell the truth. And I also love that it's a little girl that was playing baseball and broke the window. Brave kids can do all things just by being brave. In the book, Max Speed, a little boy cleans his room. There's Max. He cleans his room. He jumps into his super secret car for an adventure. And he's driving along when he notices that something is blocking the road. And it is a river of hot lava. Oh my goodness. How will he get past that? So the question that runs throughout the entire story is, had Max met his match? Of course not. He just grabbed his super secret jetpack and he soared high above the hot lava. But oh no, his jetpack ran out of gas. So, had Max met his match? Not at all. He opens his super secret parachute and he drifts slowly down into shark infested waters. But no worries. He saves himself by speaking super shark language. Max keeps landing and escaping trouble until he arrives back home where his mom is waiting. And now his room is really messy again from all his adventures. And mom has him clean up his room. And at the end of the story, we discover that Max has finally met his match in the form of his mother. In the book, Looking for Bongo, a little boy has lost his stuffed animal and he searches all throughout his house for it. He asks his grandmother if she has seen Bongo, and she hasn't. He asks the cat. The cat meows and runs away. He asks the dog, but the dog just simply barks and rolls over. He asks his dad, but his dad is about to go out, but promises to help him search for Bongo when he comes back. But the little boy is impatient. He wants his Bongo now. So he continues looking for it. He asks his mom, but his mom is too busy and she hasn't seen it either. And then finally, among some actual bongos, he spies a brown arm, and there is Bongo. And the little boy tells his grandmother that he is going to hold on to Bongo so he will never run away again. So there's a little boy in bed asleep. And if you notice, he has around his wrist a piece of string that he has tied to Bongo. Oh my goodness. So now we see who had taken Bongo and hidden him, his little sister. And I love how when she picked up Bongo, the string pulled the little boy's arm and woke him up.
So, in addition to these wonderful books, I'm going to share some resources that can help you have conversations about race with young children. The Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture offers a variety of tools to help guide and inspire conversations on race. You can search the site in 3 ways: by audience, and there's 3 different options there. You can search as an educator, parent or caregiver, or simply as a person committed to equity. Next, you can search by a variety of topics, or you can search by resources if you have something particular in mind. In the parent or caregiver section, you can see there's a variety of topics such as bias, being anti-racist, community building, self-care, racial and race identity, and so much more. These are great ways to start conversations with children. On PBS for Parents, they offer resources that help you have meaningful conversations with young children about race, racism, and being anti-racist. They have a variety of articles that you can read, recommended book lists to help guide conversations and to add diversity to book collections, and additional resources that are outside of their website, as well as some videos. Common Sense Media is a nonprofit that rates movies, TV shows, books, and so much more so that parents can feel good about the entertainment choices that they're making for their children. They had a very interesting article in their blog that I listed here that I wanted to share with you tonight. So here they have information about how to diversify your bookshelf, how you can use movies and books to raise anti-racist children. The article provides links to help diversify bookshelves, advise on how to point out racism in movies, TV, and games. They also discuss how to seek out media created by people of color, as well as links to sites to help broaden your own perspectives. Finally, they offer ways to navigate the online landscape. At Embrace Race, they identify, organize, and as needed, create the tools, resources, and discussion spaces and networks to help with discussions on race. They also had a very good article, which is about looking for excellent diverse books. And you can see here they've listed some major hubs for finding diverse books and 8 tips to help you choose good picture books featuring Black and Indigenous people and people of color. They provide children's book sites and blogs, as well as tips for creating an anti-bias children's book collection and ways to review and evaluate children's books for bias.
We also have resources on our webpage. So if you go to the library's webpage, look in the left-hand column, you're going to see Research Center. Click on Research Center and a drop-down box will appear. Then click on Research Guides. And that will take you to a page where we have guides listed by subject, and they will give you book recommendations and point you to other websites. Really great source for you. So I encourage you to take time to look at all the guides listed here. However, tonight we're just going to focus on 2 of these guides. If you look in the right-hand column, you're going to see resources by age group. We're going to look at adults and 50 plus and early literacy. So let's first look at adults and 50 plus. I want to show you that we have resources specifically for adults around racial and social justice. So if you look over on the left-hand side, you'll see understand and dismantle racial injustice. Underneath that category, we have some subjects. We have join us, which will show you the different library events that we are offering around racism. Reflect will show you different books that you can read. Understand will provide explanations of our history and why we are where we are today. There is a watch section that will recommend movies and documentaries, a listen section that will allow you to hear poetry, and a further insights section that will extend your understanding of racism and the things that we struggle with today by pointing you to additional resources outside of what the library provides.
So if you're back at the main page of the library, we're going to start here to get to the early literacy section. So on the main page, again, you're going to go to the Research Center on the left-hand side of the page. Click on Research Guides. And again, we're going to look at that right-hand side of the page. And instead of clicking on the adults and 50 plus, select early literacy. Here, our page is set up very similar to the adult page. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a box that says Talking to Young Children About Race Resources. If you click on that, you'll get some drop-down boxes underneath. The first being Join Us, where you can find programs that are related to young children. And these programs are going to be either revolving around race or being a very diverse program. In the Understand section, you'll find videos to help with discussions about race. In the Read section, we have 3 book lists linked to the catalog. So the first is Anti-Racist Books, Beautiful Me, celebrating children of color, and finally, you can't see it here, but it is Everyday Diversity. And finally, we have a further insights section, which lists a variety of links that'll help you have discussions with young children about race in America. And many of those I talked about tonight, but there's also many more, and it'll be constantly updated. So we are offering a lot of virtual programs during this time. And for our preschoolers, we have online story times that they can view. They premiere on Facebook at 10 a.m. So you can like our Facebook page so you'll be notified when we have a premiere. Or if your little one likes to hear the same story again and again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and find the Storytime playlist there.
We also have a variety of events and programs for adults. So we have a Zumba class that's July 30th and August 6th, and we hope to continue that for the rest of the summer. We have a Let's Talk About Race roundtable, All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter, on Monday, August 10th at 7 p.m. Now, this is just a smattering of the programs that we offer. I encourage you to go to our website, look in that left-hand column. This time you're going to click on Events. Another page will open, and this is where you can find a listing of all of the events that we offer our customers. You can search for programs 2 different ways. You can search by type, by audience, or you can actually type in the name of the program that you're looking for. So let's say that we clicked on Discover All FCPL Events. Here is where you can type in the name of the program. So if I typed in Zumba, we can see a listing of all the Zumba classes that we're currently offering. Then it's just a matter of clicking on the name of the program and it will take you to the registration page. We want to bring programming directly to you. So if you would like to receive notifications about children and adults programming, you can contact us. So if you would like alerts about children's programs, send an email to Tina Mraz. If you would like alerts about adult programs, please contact me, Renee Edwards.
So we'd like to end our program today with a book that I found very interesting and very pertinent to what's going on in the world today. It's called Say Something by Peter H. Reynolds. The world needs your voice. Mine? That's yours. Go ahead. It doesn't need to be perfect as long as it's from your heart.
You don't have to be loud. Powerful words can be a whisper. You can say something in so many ways, with words, with action, with creativity.
If you see someone lonely, say something by just being there for them.
If you see an empty lot, say something by planting a seed and watching it bloom.
If you see an empty canvas, say something with your brush.
If you see someone being hurt, say something by being brave. Hey, stop!
If you have a brilliant idea, say something with confidence. Eureka!
If you want to show the world who you are, say something with style. Ta-da!
If you're angry, say something to help people understand. You made me feel invisible. That really hurt. I'm really sorry.
If you see an injustice, say something peacefully. Inspire others to do the same.
Sometimes you'll say something and no one will be listening. But keep saying what's in your heart, and you will find someone who listens.
Keep saying it, and you may be surprised to find the whole world listening.
If you are grateful for being alive, quietly say something to the stars, to the universe.
Some people find it easier to say something than others, but everyone has something to say.
So when you're ready, say something. The
World
needs
your
voice. Thank you so much for attending our training.